Good afternoon, Wargamers. Mechrat back at it again. More content for the content gods. Today we got another long form rambly video. I'm gonna be going over the Battlescroll and then like a condensed version of the GHB, basically with just like the battle tactics and the endless spells and all of that stuff. Give you my initial thoughts on them and stuff. Obviously, I'm not live reacting. I've played several games of the new GHB already, but I'll give you my thoughts on them. And just kind of put a little bit of context, everything in a little bit of context. I plan to do more in-depth videos. I plan to do a biggest winners and losers of the GHB. I plan to do GHB slash Battlescroll like in the context of Scaven, and what that means for us, and I'll do a army tier list as well, like every army in Age of Sigmar tier list. Those three plus this current video I've got kind of planned. So this will just be a nice little first taste of new content. Excited to start making videos about the new GHB and the new Battlescroll and all that stuff. So let's get into it here. First, I'll just go over the rules updates. There's not a whole lot of these. Most of it is just like fixing random stuff. There's one that's notable, which is the new season rule, regimented forces, which is basically if a player has more regiments than their opponent at the start of the battle, then once per battle, that player can re-roll their priority roll. So what does this mean? Is this like super impactful, super strong, amazing? I don't think so. I think it does. It's two things basically. Basically, it's an incentive to be higher drops, an actual incentive to be higher drops, because we all know choosing who goes first is very strong in Age of Sigmar. So previously you got basically nothing for being higher drops. Now you get something that's actually decently powerful. And the second thing that this does, I think, is this almost kills the army archetype of be one drop, make your opponent go first, and then fish for the one to do double to destroy them and win. Because the chances of you getting the 1-2 double when your opponent has a reroll for their priority roll and they win ties because they went first to battle round 1, it's like very low. The chances of you consistently getting that 1-2 double are super low if you don't have a reroll and your opponent does have a reroll. So I think that kills the super toxic one-drop Alpha Strike armies like Krondys and 12 Paladors and Bellicor, 10 Chosen, 6 Varangard. Maybe it doesn't kill them completely, but I do think it makes them significantly worse. So that's that. We got a few random erratas, making things look nice once again. Can I complete the same battle tactic multiple times in a battle? No, as it should be. Kairos did get a new war scroll in the battle scroll, which makes sense because his old war scroll doesn't function with the new battle tactics. So they changed his battle tactic ability, and they also changed his weapon profile. He has like a okay shooting attack now, and his melee got a tiny bit worse. And then his new ability is he picks a battle tactic card that's on your roster and he discards it. Then for the rest of the battle, you replace it with a battle tactics card that's not on your roster. If the new battle tactics card requires either players to pick something, they do so immediately, and the max total you can earn in terms of points from the old and the new card is 15. So that way you can't score more than the maximum amount of victory points allowed per game. So what does this mean, right? Well, it means you pick a battle tactics card that you plan to do for the whole game, and then you pick one where the first one or the first two are really easy, and then you complete those first two, and then you switch that card for another one that's really easy, and then you score more tactics easily. As we all know, and as we'll see as I'll look at later in this video, the new battle tactics are really hard. A lot of them, the first one is very doable, the second one is sometimes doable, and then the third one is like you destroyed your opponent and were able to score this. It's like impossible to score most of the third battle tactics without winning more. So This gives you, as a Tzeentch player, a way to potentially score 6 battle tactics or maybe even 5 battle tactics per game, much easier than most other players. So that's very strong. A little change to the Arcanaut frigate, whatever, I don't really care, I don't play KO. Let's see, is there anything else? When you set up a Bloodthirster using 8 Blood Tithe points, it doesn't get any enhancements, makes sense. Silventh base pieces cannot overlap, makes sense. Nothing too crazy here. Don't care about Spearhead, nothing for Scaven. Just a slight rewrite of Archeon's auto banish ability, just to make it cleaner. It still works the same. And that's it. So very, very few rules changes. It's expected. So let's take a look at the points changes, because that's really what's important here. Starting with Cities of Sigmar. So what have we here? Battle Mage, Battle Mage, Battle Mage. Looks like mostly humans down. Couple that stand out to me are the Fusel Major on Warhulk going down. Obviously, we all know with the changes to obscuring from the new GHB, shooting is going to be significantly less powerful because it's very easy to avoid it, and it's harder to use shooting. So that makes him worse. But he was very, very strong already, so making him even cheaper is an interesting choice. Free Guild Marshal and Relic Envoy being 90 is insane, because that guy is very good when compared with the Command Core. Spoiler alert, Command Core went down 20. So, at the top level, Cities of Sigmar is going to be 60 Command Core, the army, with some flavor. Command Core is just such an efficient unit. It's so spammable. It's super durable already because it's relatively wound dense with an OK armor save and a 5-up ward. With +1 or +2 attacks, if you throw 2 Command Core at something, it will die, because you're gonna throw like something like 10 attacks damage D3 and then 6 attacks damage D6 into it, on top of all the crappy attacks. So yeah, Command Core, very scary. Not looking forward to playing against that. Basically everything else that went down in points is something that's just got a bad war scroll. I mean, Steel Helm's fine, Fusiliers, whatever. Flagellants, maybe there's something there. The Hurricanum, maybe there's something there. And Wilder Corpse Hunters, maybe there's something there. But basically no love for elves or dwarves here. A lot of human stuff getting changed, so yeah, I think we all know that the dwarf and elf stuff is gonna get legends or changed in some way. Anyway, yeah, Cities is just Command Core, the army. Not too excited to play that, and then none of their enhancements got costed, which seems a little crazy to me, because Brazier of the Holy Flame definitely needed to be costed, or that item needed to be reworked, so it brought back wounds instead of models, because that thing is so broken combined with the Command Core. Anyway, I digress. Let's look at Daughters. Only very few points changes here. We've got the Hag Queen on Cauldron going down 20, and then the Sisters of Slaughter Witch Knives and the Elves with Bucklers, both of which nobody played, going down. So maybe people will play them now. I doubt it. Avatar at 120 is hilarious. I still don't think it sees play, because you could just bring 10 Witch Elves with blades that are an insane hammer over it. None of the points going up on anything, which is probably fine. I don't think any of the Daughters or battle formations or spell lores or anything like that were like super egregiously overpowered. Their new prayer lore is insane though. So I think Doc is going to be one of the better armies. Obviously, I'll do another video about biggest winners and biggest losers from the GHB Battlescroll, all of the updates, because we've gotten a bunch of updates recently, just all of it jammed together for the next, season of play. I think Doc is going to be one of the better armies. Moving on to Fire Slayers. Flamekeeper down 20, hilarious. Runefather on Droth down 10 is fine. Runesmiter on Droth down 20 is probably also fine. Footsun, no. Nobody's playing that. Doomseeker in Exile, nobody's playing that. And then Ashbeard and Ashcloud Rune both got costed, which feels like a real punch in the gut to Fire Slayers, because I don't think they were that insanely good to begin with. And the only reason that these two artifacts were taken is because they're just the only two usable artifacts for most Fire Slayers lists. The only other thing that I have seen remotely get play is Droth Helm for Magma Droth lists, which will probably be what the meta is now, given that their Scourge of Gyran update made Magma Droths a lot more usable because they got a prayer lore and a new war scroll and some monstrous traits that all go together really well. So yeah, I think Droths will probably be where it's at for Fire Slayers, but these points cost here, I think GW just was like, oh my gosh, they don't play anything but these two. We have to cost these two to encourage diversity. Well, you should have just written them better artifacts. Ideneth, nothing for points changes. And then once again, the heroic trait that everybody took and the artifact that everybody took got costed. Will people play other ones? Probably not, because the other ones are significantly worse than the two that got costed. So basically you just had all of your lists go up 40 points. Moving on. I don't have much to say about Ideneth. KO, I have a few things to say about, maybe. The Engine Master down a lot is interesting, maybe. Big Boat down 40 is cute. Thunder is down 10. I don't know, maybe we'll see it. I think. And then the heroic trait that everybody took went up 20. So spoiler, I think KO is probably one of the biggest losers of the battle scroll and the new GHB, because most of their good stuff flies, so it can't take it can't benefit from the new obscuring, and most of their good stuff shoots. So if you want to counterplay KO now, you just hug obscuring terrain the whole game, and they literally can't do damage to you other than with melee balloon boys. So they're in a rough spot for sure. Also, I think most of the new tactics cards aren't great for them. I need to talk to some KO players and see what they're looking at, but not impressed with KO, really. I worry about them. Lumineth, tech list going down 20. He probably keep going. I think this is going to be a really terrible season for Techless, because any shooting that enemies do have will just target him and he'll die, and he can't really do anything with spells anymore because of the new obscuring terrain. I might flip-flop back and forth with my opinions on obscuring terrain and the new obscuring system in this video a little bit. I'm still trying to gauge how impactful it actually is. Basically, what I've gauged so far is that if you want it to be really impactful, it can be. You can play super campy and just hug obscuring the whole game and never be touched by enemy spells or shooting, but it does make it significantly harder to play the matchup, and I think there will be some armies that if you camp it obscuring the whole game, they'll punish you for it. And I think Lumineth might be one of those. That remains to be seen. But I mean, yeah, once again, the faction terrain being costed is hilarious, because it's not even one of the most impactful faction terrains in the game. It's one of the least impactful faction terrains in the game, in my opinion. And then the artifacts that everyone took is now 20. Sentinels and Wardens down is cute, and the Ballista down is cute. I was kind of hoping to see some love to the wind stuff, because it got overly nerfed, in my opinion. It was really toxic to play against, so everybody was happy that it got nerfed, but now it's just bad. So I would love to see some of the wind stuff get cheaper, and then maybe some of the stone stuff get a little cheaper too. But not much to say about Lumineth. Seraphon I have a little bit more to say about. None of the heroes really changing. The obscuring change really negatively affects Lord Croak, because the main thing that he did was kind of sit in the back and then pulse mortal wounds out, and if you can just hug obscuring, you won't get pulsed by mortal wounds, so he doesn't really do much now. Spawn of Choke Tech, keep going. And then some really I mean, 20 for the Realm Shaper engine, you hate to see it. 20 for the artifacts. I mean, it's a fun. I don't think it was a strong enough artifact to warrant 20 points, but everybody took it, so I guess that's why. And then they made the good spell lore more expensive. Basically, every Seraphon player that I've talked to is going to keep playing the good spell lore anyway. So I don't know, man. Write better rules, I guess. Stormcast, obviously there's a ton of green because Stormcast is GW's favorite. I don't really know what to say about most of this because I don't play Stormcast. Vandus Hammerhand going down 20 is cool, and Tornus going down 20 is cool. I don't know. Although the Dracothian Guard went down a little bit, Storm Drake Guard went down a bit, and the Chariot went down. And then I don't know why the portal got costed. Like, again, that's just an instance where, like, they're maybe just afraid of it. Again, I don't think it's strong enough to warrant getting a 20 points cost. It's a massive charge anchor and it's pretty easy to play around. It's just any basic Stormcast counterplay also counterplays the Stormreach portal, so I don't know. And then Odd Void of the Heavens is just what almost everyone took. I played against a few people that took Shock and Awe, but it generally seemed like Odd Void of the Heavens was the better one. I don't know, maybe some of the new, I think some of the new heroic traits are pretty solid. Like the one, it might be Hour of Glory is the one where you can just use Finest Hour like multiple turns in a row. And that could be funny with a new Star Drake or something. We'll see. I think most Stormcast players are going to be more or less happy. I'm sure there are some that'll be upset because long strikes are significantly worse now, and Paladors, just Javelin Paladors are significantly worse now, but they'll find something. Stormcast book is so large, they'll be fine. And then we got Silventh. They got one of the more fun Scourge of Gyran updates, in my opinion. And then some of their screens went down, and the Arch Revenant went a bit down, and surprise, surprise, the heroic trait and artifacts that everybody took always went up. Hilarious. I don't have a ton to say about Silventh. I still think that they have an inherent weakness as an army where in order to like do their game plan, they have to cast trees out. And trees are just massive charge anchors and give any sort of melee army an upper hand against the Silventh player. So it's kind of self-sabotaging putting trees out all over the battlefield. And everything is costed in the Silventh book, like you're bringing Alariel and having the 4-up summon. You know, you only get that half the time, and if you're not playing Alariel, you're just playing an overcosted mediocre melee army. So New Drycha is really fun and strong. I like her a lot. I'm sure Silventh players will come up with something cool. The new Revenant Seekers are pretty cool too. Yeah, I'm sure Silventh players will come up with something cool and they'll do fine, but their Scourge of Gyran update was awesome, but the army still leaves a little something to be desired, I think. And then we got Khorne. A bunch of the crappy foot heroes got cheaper. The Wrath of Khorne Bloodthirster got cheaper too, which love to see that. Blood Reavers, we love to see screens be cheaper, especially in this season. I think having more screens and more like tactics units is going to be good. Skull Cannon wasn't great, and now shooting is worse, so it's still not great. At least none of their traits or artifacts or anything got costed. The Scourge of Gyran for Khorne, I think, was kind of a nothing burger. They didn't really get anything crazy good, but they didn't get worse. So I think Khorne is still just kind of a one-trick army, which is that they can redeploy Murderlust and that they spam a bunch of boots on the ground. And if that turns out to be strong this season, good for them, but they're boring. Moving on to Tzeentch, another army that I think is going to suffer quite a lot from the new GHB, because they primarily do damage through spells and shooting, and then they sit on objectives, and spells and shooting got a lot worse. So they're going to struggle to deal damage more against players, against like people that are hard outplaying them or counterplaying them. Kairos going down and the loaded change going down is probably proper, actually, because the demon stuff was pretty expensive. The other heroes I don't really know. Exalted Flamer, whatever. Jade Obelisks, whatever. And then Illusionist went up. Nine-Eyed Tome went up, and then the good spell lore went up a lot. But unless you're playing a full mortal list, I think you still take the good spell lore anyway. Illusionist you probably still take anyway. And then Nine-Eyed Tome, I think some people are going to take the funny 2d6 attacks thing and then make a melee chicken. That could be good. I don't know. We'll wait and see. I don't have a whole lot to say about Tzeentch, really. And then we got Slaanesh, a wall of green, a bunch of the heroes going down 20 or 30, Sigvald going down 40. And then Hellflare getting cheaper and the Chariot getting cheaper, but nothing else really getting touched. And then the Pennant of Slaanesh going up 20. I really don't have much to say about Slaanesh. I think their Scourge of Ghyran update was quite good, actually. I think both the new Slangor Fiendbloods and the new Celeste are super good. And I'll be excited to play against them. Haven't played against Slaanesh this GHB, so don't have too much to say about them. Nurgle, have played against them this GHB. They got some great changes. If you want more in-depth commentary on the Nurgle changes, head over to my buddy Ray, who runs the Scaven Plays YouTube channel. He's doing a bunch of videos about the Nurgle, but the short answer is all the Magath Lords are decent and playable. Poxbringer's great. Sloppity's great. Yeah, Poxbringer is pretty good. Spoilpox is still not great. Gutrot's techie. Lord of Afflictions is like a budget demon prince that can do some funny stuff. Witherstave being 20 kind of makes sense. I've heard some Nurgle players have started switching to Rustfang instead, but the Witherstave is still good. I think, spoiler alert, I think Nurgle's going to be... They're probably one of the biggest winners of this GHB because the new Rotigus War Scroll is insane. He's auto-include, like literally every Nurgle army just starts with new Rotigus. The new Prayer Lore is also insane. You definitely want 1 to 2 priests in every Nurgle army. And then the new heroic trait to become a priest is great. So yeah, Nurgle, definitely one of the better Scourge of Ghyran updates for sure. Now we get to my boys, the Scaven. I'll take a little more time here because they are my boys after all. Clawlord, I don't care. Clawlord on Nobbeast, I don't care. Deathmaster down 20, love to see it. I've been enjoying the Deathmaster a lot, especially with Double Vermin Lord or even just the Deceiver. So him being 100 is great. Kritok down 20, love to see it. I still probably won't play him just because I don't like Storm Vermin. And he's basically only useful with Storm Vermin. But for all of you who want to play Storm Vermin and don't care that they're not very good, there you go. Screech down 30 is hilarious. I already thought he was decent, if a bit swingy. At 380, he's even better. Master Molder at 80 is really cheap for an actually useful foot hero, so love to see that. The Plague Priest on Plague Furnace is very interesting. I've already played a couple of games with it, and it feels really good into certain matchups. Obviously, if you go into a matchup where they don't have any wards, it's going to be way less useful, and you kind of need to tailor your list around it just a little bit because you need at least one infantry hammer to really get the value out of our prayer lore. But I think the Plague Priest on Plague Furnace actually sees play now, which is cool. Corruptor, keep going, it sucks. Warbringer, keep going, it sucks. Deceiver down 20. I want what GW is smoking. That thing was already the best war scroll in our book, and they just said, yeah, drop it down 20, who cares? Warp Seer down to 320 is hilarious. Still don't think I play him because our other heroes are just better, but if you want to play him, I won't fault you. Vizic at 380. Combined with the nerfs to shooting, I think we'll see less dedicated shoot hammers. Unless the meta evolves to where monsters become super meta, then you'll see shooting anyway because monsters don't benefit from obscuring. Vizic is a monster, unfortunately, so he will always be able to be shot. But if the meta develops in such a way that shooting is not a problem and it's mostly just melee, he's great because he's great into melee armies, and he really takes our infantry from being mediocre to actually decent. All the Scryer heroes suck, so I don't care about them. This new Scourge of Gargen, Grey Seerod Screaming Bell is like one of the best war scrolls in our army. It's insanely good. I'll talk about it extensively in other videos that I have planned, so I won't take the time to talk about it now. Bombardiers down, you'd love to see it. Not sure if they'll see play or not because they are a shooting unit. They do have shoot in combat, which is fine. Doom Flayers, again, I want what GW is smoking. They were already one of our best war scrolls and they went down 20. Are you serious? 220 for 4 Doom Flayers is nutty. So I'm very happy to see it. Doom Wheel, keep going, it sucks. Hell Pit at 200, I finally start looking at it. Night Runners down 10, love to see it. Plague Monks down 10, love to see it. Now they actually compete with Clan Rats. Plague Claw down 20, hilarious, even though it's terrible. I've seen some people get some value out of it. It's not terrible, it's very swingy. Rat Ogres down 10, love to see it. Storm Fiends down 10, also love to see it. Probably keep going on Storm Fiends. I think Rat Ogres, we're getting close. 140, 130, I think is the right points for Rat Ogres. Storm Fiends, I think maybe another 20 down. Warp Grinder, keep going, and the thing sucks. Warp Lightning Cannon, hilarious, love it. But the nerfs to shooting, I'm not sure if it'll see play. Same story with the Scourgers. And then the Scourge of Gyran Brood Terror is amazing. And then we didn't get touched with any of our battle formations, traits, artifact spells, anything. We have like one of the best terrain features in the game, and I'm surprised they didn't touch that, but I'm not complaining. We have one of the best heroic traits in the game. Surprised they didn't touch it, but not complaining. And then we have one of the best battle formations in the game. Again, which, you know, is the triple redeploy one, the Gathering of the Clans. Again, surprised they didn't touch it, but not complaining. Hope they don't touch it. But yeah, another one of the biggest winners. Spoiler alert, Scaven, we're doing real well. Slavs to Darkness. The old Abraxia got cheaper. I think you play the new Abraxia anyway. Archeon got cheaper, probably keep going. Marshall, I don't care. Chaos Lord on Demonic Mount, maybe. Archidrak, maybe. Demon Prince, cool. Dark Oath, I don't care. Gunner Brand, Myrmidon, I don't care. Chariot, I don't care. Dark Oath stuff, I don't care. Vortex Beast, funny. Slaughter Brute, I don't care. And then the heroic trait that everyone was taking, even though it's not that good, but it's the only one that was remotely playable, went up 20. So cool. Don't have a lot to say on slaves. I think their archetype of an army, which was like a 1-drop Be'lakor list, got significantly worse this GHB. And I think slaves as an army got a little bit worse this GHB. So I think we'll see what people end up playing, but I think, like, fresh hot take from Mechrat, I think Legion of the First Prince is actually going to be quite good this GHB, because they play the objective game and they have a lot of board presence. So we'll see. But I don't have a lot to say about slaves. Haven't played them yet. I've played them once this GHB, and it was a cavalry skew list, and it didn't overly impress me. Flesh Eater Courts. Some heroes I don't care about got cheaper. Flayers probably keep going. Both the monsters keep going. Taskmaster, that did need to be costed for sure. Eternal Vestments, probably is fine. It's just become a priest, I believe. But Taskmaster is very good. Probably I would have probably nerfed Taskmaster rather than just giving it a points cost. But I don't know where Flesh Eater Course is going to end up. I think the Morbeg list is still really strong. I think Morbegs as a unit are still going to be really strong. So we'll see how that shakes out. Night Haunt. Oh boy. I really don't care about any of the heroes getting cheaper or these units getting cheaper. Their Scourge of Gyran update was hype and awesome because the new Black Coach is awesome, and I love seeing good, cool models be strong. Ruler, Spectral Host, and Light Shard probably did need to go up because they were really strong, as well as Always Taken. The real problem is that the faction terrain costs 0. because they actually probably do have the best faction terrain in the game. I'm not sure if it's them or Scaven. It's probably one of the two. It's probably Nighthaunts though. Nighthaunts faction terrain is stupid. I think Nighthaunt is probably one of the bigger winners and are probably going to be very strong this GHB. OBR, Leash Cavalos down 30, love to see it. All the Morghast down 10, love to see it. Immortus Guard down 20, love to see it. Stalkers down 10, keep going, give them a new War Scroll while you're at it. The Scourge of Gyrena update for OBR was a little bit of a nothing burger in my expert opinion. Their new spell lore is meh, and their new battle formations are both meh from what I remember. So we'll see where they end up, but I don't think they were doing too badly, and I think they'll continue to not do too badly. Though I do think that their low unit count might struggle a little bit in this new GHB. A lot of the maps want you to have more MSU and more units and stuff like that, and elite armies like this might suffer a little bit. We'll see. Soul Blight, Vordride down, probably keep going. He's very swingy. Lady Anika, I don't care. Blaze of the Hollow King, I don't care. Vampire Lord on Steed, I don't care. The two monsters that are bad, I don't care. Lash going up 20, it was the only heroic trait that anyone took ever. They have 5 mediocre heroic traits and one that was decent, and they costed the one that was decent. And their faction terrain is pretty bad. Their manifestation lore is pretty bad. But they still get by because Manfred's amazing, and Sakar, the new Sakar is pretty strong actually. And I think the new GHB probably is decent for them. We'll see how it ends up shaking out, but I wouldn't be surprised if Soulblight ends up doing okay. Yeah, not much to say about Soulblight. We'll just keep scrolling. Gits, Drogs down, love to see it. Loon Boss on Mangler Squigs down to 190, love to see that. All the spider stuff went down, it looks like, and then the Doom Diver Catapult, hilarious. Stabbers and Shooters down, love to see it. Mangler Squigs, love to see it. Spiders, love to see it. Loon Touch and Clemmy Cowl going up. It makes sense, I guess. I mean, I think Fight Another Day is also really good. And I don't know. I don't have a ton to say about Gits. I think their new spell lore that they got is interesting, and I think both of the new Fnatic War Scrolls are very interesting and actually very strong. I think Gits, their role is kind of changing a little bit. I don't think they're the funny Trog army anymore or the funny Squig army. I think they're a weird techie Moon Clan army now, and then you take kind of a bag of everything and every unit. It's kind of like a list builder's army now. You have like your durable anvil with trogs, you take a couple of squig glass hammers, you take some get mob to do tactics, and then you take some fanatics to be annoying and do certain jobs. We'll see where Gits ends up. I'm hopeful for them, but I haven't played them yet this GHB, so I don't know. Ironjaws, we love to see the heroes get cheaper. We love to see anything in Ironjaws get cheaper because everything in Ironjaws is crazy expensive. Their Scourge of Gyrena update was a little strange. I think the new Weird Brute Rekkas are maybe okay because +1 to hit is pretty strong with the nerfs to all out attack and all out defense. But I don't know. We'll see. Again, I don't have a ton to say on Ironjaws because I haven't played them yet this GHB. My opinion, the monstrous traits are sick. Their new their manifestation lore and their faction terrain are sick, and Mega Boss on Bot Crusher being 340 feels much better. I would love to see some more Monster Mash Ironjaws list. I think they'll be in an okay spot. They still have great armor, which is nice, especially given that all out defense got nerfed. Armies that have great base armor, I feel like, are gonna fare a little better, maybe. We'll see. Cruel Boys. I have played against Cruel Boys. I think Cruel Boys' strategy did not change at all. What's probably going to be good in Cruel Boys is what has been good in Cruel Boys for the longest time, which is a strike last castle around Kragnos, and then you just use Kragnos to kill shit, and then you do teleport around to score tactics, and you try not to die too quickly. I think given that shooting got nerfed, Kragnos is going to be much harder to deal with, so they're probably that archetype of Cruel Boys is probably the best it'll ever be right now. And the killer boss going on Vulcha going down 30, we love to see that because that guy was cool with the runaway ability. And then Monster Killers going down 10 is they were what you played. They're really good. So I think Cruel Boys will be fine. I think a lot of people that play Cruel Boys are still upset that they got nerfed from their index, but I think they'll still be playable and fine. Probably not without Kragnos at a tournament level, which sucks. I know most Destruction players hate playing Kragnos, but if you want to win with Cruel Boys, he's really good. Ogres, my other army. Basically, all their points changes were nothing. The new Iron Blaster is so much better than the old Iron Blaster, so the old Iron Blaster getting a points change doesn't matter. Leadbelcher's War Scroll is terrible, so going down 20 does not matter. I don't care about any of these heroes that went down. Their Scourge of Gyran update was great, though. One of the best ones, in my opinion. The new Iron Blaster is awesome and fun. Shooting is, you know, it remains to be seen whether it'll be good or not, but it's at least fun if you get to shoot at something. And the new Burger Lust subfaction is unbelievably good if you know what you're doing. It's like a very much a high skill floor, high skill ceiling ability, in my opinion. But if you know how to get the most out of it, it is a very strong ability. And then all the strengths of Ogres last GHB, I think, carry over to this GHB. They still do everything they did last GHB very well. This GHB, just with some extra tricks. And they have a really strong new big name that's -1 to ward, and I think a lot of the great armies in the game have wards right now, so you love to see it. Touched by the Everwter went up 20. Kind of makes sense because it was basically the only heroic trait you ever took, because it was the only one that does anything. But I think you can afford to just take a 20-point tax. If not, maybe you just take Booming Roar on a Frostlord or something and then make him really good at capturing objectives. I don't know. I kind of expected them to cost the Maw Pit because it's played so much more often than the Maw Pot, but I'm actually glad to see they didn't. I now just want them to see them rewrite the Beast Claw half of Ogres in when their Battle Tome comes out. Anyway, for Suns, they literally didn't get anything. They just got their extra heroic traits from Scourge of Gyran and their extra battle formations. I have heard that Grabby is decent because +1 to hit, because new all-out attack is really bad for Gargans, because if you all-out attack and then fail to kill whatever you were attacking as the Gargan player, now you're -1 save and you're going to get smacked real hard. I think Gargans is going to struggle this season because I think the nerfs to all-out attack and all-out defense are horrendous for them specifically. And on top of that, I think a lot of the missions are pretty difficult for them because they're not exactly high objectives, but they are very spread out. However, on the flip side, if the meta does shift to more MSU and less reinforced hammers, that does benefit Gargans because Gargans have an easier time killing an MSU thing than a reinforced hammer. On the flip side, if more people start running -1 to hit debuffs because all-out attack got nerfed, that's really, really bad for Gargans. So it's a bit of a wash, but I think overall it's a net negative for Gargans. I think, yeah, they're gonna struggle. And then for the Manifestation Lures, Morbid is 30 now. Don't worry, they killed Morbid when they nerfed Gravetide into the ground and nerfed Purple Sun. So I actually don't even think it needs a points cost now, but whatever. And then they costed everything except Aether Rot and Twilight, which is kind of funny to me because I think Aether Rot is better than some of the ones they did cost, but whatever. And then I don't really care about the Regiments of Renown or the Legend stuff. So let us finish up here by looking at some stuff from the new GHB. I've got all of the missions, the tactics, and then all the endless spells here. I'll cover the endless spells really quickly just because there's not a ton to say on them. The biggest changes with the endless spells is they cleaned up the wording on the endless spells, so they make a little bit more sense now. And then they universally changed every endless spell, at least of the universal endless spells. They're all a 6-up save and a 6-up ward now. So that really hurts specific spell lores. It hurts Forbidden a lot because a lot of their spell lores had decent armor saves. If you want my hot take, I think the best endless spell in lore now is probably Primal Energy. Jaws is still amazing. Lifeswarm is still usable. And Burning Head is still something that can tie something up for a turn or block your opponents from deep striking. And that's really all you needed to do. The main reason you're taking this is for Jaws and Lifeswarm, but it's still great. Twilight is free. It's the other free. It's the first free one of the 2 free ones. Geminids is still amazing, and then Palisade is much worse because shooting is much worse, so you'll have even less chances to cast this and get use out of it. And Spell Portal is still mid in my opinion. So if you're taking this lore, it's because of Geminids, and Geminids are still amazing. So that's all I have to say about them. Morbid I think is just dead. I think there's no reason to run this now. Gravetide is so much worse. It casts on an 8 and it barely does any damage because it hits on a 4 instead of hitting on a 2. And Purple Sun also makes you -1 to save now instead of just enemies, so it's also worse. Shackles is still great, and Maelstrom is still whatever, but I wouldn't pay 30 points for this lore personally. Aether Rot, I think this and Primal are the best 2 lores right now. I think Primal is slightly better, but it also depends on the list. If you have good wizard, like monster wizards, I think Aether Rot's probably better because Cogs is amazing for them, because -1 to hit is overall stronger this GHB. So Cogs is amazing, Pendulum is still amazing, and Swords got worse obviously because it's a 4-up to hit now, but it still does decent damage and it still ignores wards, and they all cast on 6s. Love to see it. Forbidden Power. Forbidden Power got worse in my opinion because they're all 6-up saves now. Previously, I think Bridge and Shards I think were both 4-up saves. Can't remember what Lauchen was, but I think it was better than a 6. So Shards and Soulscream Bridge were actually kind of hard to kill. Shards did get buffed. It now zones outside of 9 instead of outside of 6, but I think unless you absolutely need Bridge for something, you probably don't play this spell lore. And then we got the Kronspine, which I think being a 6-up save kills it because it's so easy to kill now. Before, when it was a 4-up save, you could actually kind of use it as a mini anvil that was sort of hard to get rid of and kind of sort of did damage. But it being a 6-up save, and you know, obviously when you take the spell, you only take this spell, or you only have the one spell, and if you fail it, it's completely useless. I wouldn't pay 20 points for this personally. I think most players are going to take either Aether Rot or Primal now, with a few players maybe taking the Geminids lore, but I don't think you'll see Morbid or Forbidden very often at all, or Kronspine. So let's talk about the battle tactics now. One thing that I really like about these is some of them are easier for certain armies and harder for others, and some of them are, you know, opposite. So I think there's actually great variety here. I think you won't see the same 2 or 3 battle tactics cards every game. I think all 6 of these have play for certain armies. I think the one you'll probably see the least is Attuned to Gairan, and we'll get to that one. But another thing I have to say about battle tactics, I don't think you'll score all 6. I've played 12 games of the GHB and I've scored all 6 once, and it was because I destroyed my opponent and I got super lucky. The average that I've been scoring per game, I think according to my statistics, because I've been keeping track of how many I score per game, I think my average is like 3.5 tactics per game. So 3 or 4 tactics per game is my average. And the reason for this is because you'll notice that the battle tactics are Affray, Strike, and then Domination. Domination being the third one. The Domination tactics are all brutally difficult, save for one of them, which is the Scouting Force one. But they are all brutally difficult. So let's cover them really quickly. We got Master the Paths. This one, the first one is kill an enemy hero. Pretty easy. Second one is You complete it if there's more friendly units in neutral territory than enemy units. If there's no neutral territory, you complete it if there's no enemy units within friendly territory. This one can be somewhat doable or really hard depending on the map. If it's a map where there's no neutral territory and you're playing against an army like Tzeentch or Silventh or somebody that's fast or teleporty, it's almost impossible to do this one unless you table your opponent. And then also Envelop and Strangle is really, really hard. Complete this tactic if at the end of your turn there's at least 3 different friendly units wholly within 9 inches of a different corner. Only one of those corners is wholly within friendly territory, and no more than one of those units can be set up this turn. So basically what that reads is you have to have a unit like in the, if you look at the life cycle battle plan here on the bottom left, you have to have a unit in the top left, the top right, and then either the bottom left or the bottom right, and only one of those can have teleported. And look at where the objectives are positioned. They're kind of central, or they're kind of far away from the corners. You know, obviously some of them, like Creeping Corruption, the objectives are a little bit closer to the edges, but on a large amount of the maps, that is going to be so hard to do. So Mass of the Paths is hit or miss because killing an enemy hero can be really easy. It can be very difficult depending on the army. Seize the Paths can be either really easy or really difficult, and then Envelop and Strangle is just always really hard. Restless Energy. Complete this battle tactic if at the end of your turn you control an objective that was controlled by your opponent at the start. Pretty easy, just steal an objective from them. Then we got a big jump. Complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if you control every objective within enemy territory. If there's no objectives within enemy territory, you complete this battle tactic if you control every objective that was controlled by your opponent at the start of your turn. There's basically always going to be an objective in enemy territory, so sometimes this could mean that you have to take 3 objectives that are far away from you in one turn, which can be so hard. And then the domination is you complete it if you control every objective on the battlefield. This one is stupidly hard unless you have like a ton of units that are super, super mobile. That is the only way that you have a chance of doing this, in my opinion. But I think you're basically never going to complete the domination one of this, but you have a decent chance of completing the first 2. Then we got Intercept and Recover, which is the most unique. Basically, your opponent picks 3 of their units on the battlefields to carry a treasure, and you score 1 segment of this tactic for each one of those units that you kill. The caveat is, if you double turn them, they get to remove one of the treasures. So if you double turn, you automatically will not be able to score the domination. And if you double turn twice, you will literally only be able to score the first one. So this one can be pretty easy or pretty difficult depending on, once again, your army and your opponent's army. If you're a very fast army, or you have decent shooting or decent power projection and can get to your opponent quickly and kill stuff, this one's not that hard. I usually take this one on Scaven, and I usually score the first 2. I've scored the third one, like where I killed all 3 of the units that they picked. I think I've scored it twice, maybe, out of 12 games. But I've scored at least the first part every game. I have not failed to Intercept and Recover Stolen Seed Pod yet. I think this is one that a lot of players will pick while they figure out how to do the other ones, because it's one of the easier ones to grasp as a concept. But this one can be deceptively difficult to score, because if you're like playing against Scaven, for example, and then they pick like their their Deceiver and then 2 little teleporting foot heroes, it's going to be so hard to score this, because the Deceiver is like impossible to kill if you're a melee army. And Scaven can just unleash spell to teleport a hero away in your turn to make it super hard to score that, to kill the little foot heroes too. So depending on the army, Intercept and Recover can be very difficult to score, but excuse me, I think this one is one of the simpler ones to grasp as a like conceptually. So I think you'll see a lot of people take this one. Then we got Raffle Cycles. This one's very interesting. You complete this. The first part 1 is control more objectives than your opponent. Very easy. That's one of the easiest part ones of all 6 tactics, in my opinion. Like, depending on the map, you can just go first and then score this one. Daring Resurgence, on the other hand, you complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn. If you are the underdog, there's at least one friendly unit on the battlefield, and at least half the friendly units on the battlefield use a fight ability. So this is where it gets really interesting. This one is not that hard to do if you can become the underdog. If your opponent is counterplaying you well and never gives you a chance to get the underdog, you won't score this one. And another interesting thing with this one, if you pick Raffle Cycles, you basically cannot take a double turn in the whole game, because if you take a double turn, your opponent will automatically become underdog until they double you back. So if you double turn them early and you don't crush them, you're kind of cooked, because you'll just be locked out of scoring both part 2 and 3 of this battle tactic. But on the flip side, if you're smart and play in position well, this is one of the most achievable battle tactics cards, in my opinion, because the part 3 is just have a friendly unit wholly within each quarter of the battlefield, and then control more objectives than your opponent, and then not have your enemy contesting the objectives that you control. So if you've like hard outplayed your opponent and you've got a good clamp down on the objectives that you control, and if you have good screens, you can like screen your opponent from getting on these objectives, which is not hard to do if you have decent bodies. If you play an army like Scaven or Gitz or Tzeentch, I think Wrathful Cycles is a pretty good one. It's just got a lot of counterplay. So that's what we like to see. We like to see counterplay. Scouting Forces is the one that everyone's seen. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if there's 3 or more scout units wholly outside friendly territory. What is a scout unit? It's a non-hero infantry or cavalry unit that starts within friendly territory. So if you have 3 infantry or cavalry units wholly outside friendly territory, you score part 1. Now that might sound really easy, but let's take a gander at the missions really quickly. We'll just a little detour. Very hard here, very hard here, very hard here, kind of hard here, not super hard here, very, very hard, pretty easy, pretty easy, pretty easy once again, pretty easy if I'm being honest. You just have to deploy weird, very easy. So we got like 4, maybe 5 missions where that's actually quite hard to do. And if your opponent boxes you in, you could potentially not score raiding party until turn like 3 or 4, which is bad because the other 2 require you to get really deep in enemy territory. Part 2 is complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if 3 or more objectives or terrain features that you control in any combination are being contested by friendly scout units. So, and those objectives and terrain features must be within enemy territory. So that's the flip-flop to this, to what I said before, right? So part 1 is pretty hard on a map like Grasp of Thorns or Creepy Corruption because it's hard to get 3 of your units outside friendly territory. On the flip side, because enemy territory is so large, it's much easier to score part 2. If it's, on a map like Linked Ley Lines, there's only 3 territory pieces and only 1 objective that are within enemy territory, and you got to go really far to get them. So the rest, or the Scouting Force one, can be pretty hard. You complete this battle. Then the third part is you complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if a friendly scout unit that was not set up this turn, so no teleporting, is contesting a terrain feature that you control that is wholly within enemy territory and is more than 6 from friendly territory. Now, depending on the map, this might just be straight up impossible. Like on Linked Ley Lines, there's only 1 terrain feature on this entire table that fits that. It's the top left terrain feature. That one is wholly within enemy territory and is more than 6 away from friendly territory. But like, depending on the map, that can be very, very difficult. And then the other thing to consider is that your opponent can pretty easily counterplay Scouting Force by just targeting your screens and cavalry. So in my opinion, you got to take at least 4 or 5, maybe even more, here, like infantry or cavalry units, to even have a chance of scoring 2 out of 3 on Scouting Force. I personally think Scouting Force is a trap. I think it's too hard to actually be worth completing the majority of the time. My army doesn't do this very well, unless I'm running 80 million clan rats, which I don't want to do. But yeah, that one's interesting. And then the last one is Tunj to Gairan. This one is really polarizing because the first one is really easy, the second one is deceptively difficult, and the third one is literally impossible. So the first one is literally just seize the center. You complete this tactic if there's 2 friendly units within 3 inches of the center and they're not in combat. That one's really pretty easy. The second one is the old battle tactic, retreat 2 and charge 2. Again, if you have a lot of units and those units are decently durable, this one's not too hard to complete because you just retreat 2 units and then charge 2 units. And if your units are decently durable, they'll probably still be in combat if, you know, from last turn. Now for the third one, you complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if there's no enemy units within friendly territory and no enemy units within neutral territory. Basically, this reads, you tabled your opponent. You complete this battle tactic if you killed every single unit that your opponent has. Because on a lot of the missions, that means that 75% of the board does not contain an enemy unit. So that is very hard. And also keep in mind, your opponent is going to be like trying to score battle tactics too. So they're going to be trying to push deep up units deep into your territory. And you can't have any enemy units within friendly territory or neutral territory in order to score for purification rights. So this literally full on reads, do something pretty easy, do something deceptively difficult, and then do something impossible. So this one's really kind of polarizing. But, you know, given with certain types of armies, the first 2 are pretty doable. And like I said, I think scoring 6 out of 6 tactics is going to be very, very rare. So sometimes you don't even need to worry about the domination tactics. Sometimes you can just pick the 2 battle tactics cards that have the easiest first 2 ones to complete, or you pick the 2 that have the least amount of counterplay. What I've been picking primarily with Scaven is Master the Paths and Intercept and Recover. And Master the Paths is pretty easy for Scaven because we have the Deceiver, who can chase after enemy heroes and kill them. And then we're usually pretty killy, so Seize the Pass isn't that hard. And we're usually pretty mobile and have gnaw holes, so Envelop and Strangle is not that hard. Similar story with Intercept and Recover. We're usually not taking a double turn as Scaven because we like being underdog, so we don't want a double turn, and we're usually giving priority away to keep opponents in a difficult place. And on top of that, we're really good at targeting and killing stuff. So that's what I take. I think most armies will play most of these. I think the one you'll see the least is probably Attuned to Gairan, because I think this one is going to scare some people off because of the difficulty of part 3. But generally, I think all 6 of these are semi-doable. This video is already getting kind of long, so I'm not going to go over all of the battle plans. I'm just going to say I love Paths of the Fae. It's funny to pick a pair of objectives and then have all of the units teleport off them and be kind of weirdly positioned is funny. I've played most of these. I think I haven't played like 2 of them yet, and they're all pretty different, and the underdog bonuses are pretty impactful. I would say the only one where the underdog bonuses are not impactful at all are Linked Ley Lines and where is it? Creeping Corruption. I would say those are the only 2 where the underdog units bonus basically does nothing, but it doesn't matter because Creeping Corruption is a 6 objective map with spread out objectives, which is neat, and Linked Ley Lines is a 5 objective fight in the middle map with an interesting territory. So I think they did a great job with these. I think this is the most fun GHB yet. I'll go more in depth later on, but I'm kind of running out of time for this video because I yapped about the battle tactics for a really long time and I went through all the points. But yeah, I don't really have much more to say. This is just kind of my initial reactions. And I hope you enjoyed watching the video and found it kind of entertaining. Look forward to more content coming out. I'm going to try to squeeze all the content out before I get really busy at the end of this month and all through July, because I got next weekend, I got a 3-day GT, and then I have over a week long family trip, and then all in July I have like 3 back-to-back GTs, and then in August I have another GT and another family trip, and then school starts. So I'm gonna be really busy the back half of the summer, so I'm gonna try to pump out as much content in the next week as I can, because then you guys probably won't see me for a few months. So hope you guys enjoy. Like, comment, subscribe, check out my other videos. I will see you all in the next one.